Senator Joe Manchin has once again sided with Republicans, a big surprise, in order to stop the Democratic agenda, which of course is to protect reproductive rights. So now Manchin has prevented, or at least joined with Republicans to prevent women's reproductive rights from being codified into law as the Supreme Court gets ready to possibly gut Roe v. Wade. So now the Women's Health Protection Act was passed by the House of Representatives. Now, when it got to the Senate, of course, it was filibustered by the Republicans. No surprise there. Now, it received about 46 yes votes in the Senate, 48 nays, and 6 abstentions. That is obviously way short of the 3/5 supermajority that you need to break a Republican filibuster. The filibuster, of course, that Joe Manchin supports keeping in place. Gee, I wonder why. All right, so now every Democrat, with the exception of Manchin, voted yes. Every Senate Republican voted no. And well, you have the situation that you have of this not moving forward. So now the House had passed this back in September, shortly after the Supreme Court let stand a draconian Texas law that deputizes private citizens to enforce the state's near total ban on abortion. So basically, they've created an army of narcs, which can sue people who are, provide abortions, or for people who they think got an abortion. And so, great, you're turning neighbors against each other. Lovely, lovely. And promising them to give them money for turning in their neighbors. Now, that law, which inspired copycat bills across the country, has actually caused about 60% decline in abortions performed in the state. So now Republicans might look into this and be like, oh, mission accomplished. We reduced the number of abortions. What? Yes. Except that no, that's not it. States outside of Texas have actually seen an increase in abortion procedures. In fact, clinics across Oklahoma, Louisiana, and New Mexico told Insider that they're seeing patients from Texas, an increased number of patients. In fact, in Louisiana, Hope Medical Group for Women, located just minutes outside the eastern Texas border, about half of the current clinic's current patients are from Texas. Wow, weird. And within the last week, New Mexico's Planned Parenthood branches saw the number of patients from Texas zip codes increased by 67%. Oklahoma's Planned Parenthood branches are seeing an even further higher influx. As early this week, there's been a 133% increase in patients with Texas zip codes in Oklahoma. This is according to Lauren Kokum, Associate Director of Health Communications at Planned Parenthood. Oh, weird. It's almost as if everybody who was going to get an abortion in Texas, since they couldn't, decided to go elsewhere. Wow, congratulations. You think you're going to have less abortions by passing these laws, but you're actually not. They're just going elsewhere. That's what happens. And by the way, only people with money, with means, are the ones that are going out of state to get an abortion. Wealthy people are always able to bypass an abortion ban, which basically means that you are effectively only banning abortions for people who are already deeply in poverty. That's what you're doing. So now you are basically forcing poor people to have more children that they cannot afford, who then have to rely on a dwindling amount of state benefits in order to take care of those children that they cannot afford. As prices, of course, of things continue to go up, as you have an incredibly deregulated power grid, which every time there's a disaster, you get bills in excess of $8,000 to $9,000 for an electric bill, or you freeze to death. But hey, it's okay. They're poor. They're not human beings anyway. Look, they don't care about kids. They don't care about the children after they're born. Unless it's to claim, of course, that they're political opponents or pedophiles. We've seen that plenty of times before. And so that's what this situation is. Now, that said, getting back to the vote, well, this is incredibly consequential because in a matter of weeks, the Supreme Court is now expected to hand down a ruling in Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization. Now, that is a case that poses a direct threat to abortion protections enshrined in Roe v. Wade. Now, that case is centered around a Mississippi law that prohibits abortion after 15 weeks. Now, 15 weeks, look, that's a ban that other Republican states are looking to replicate. Not quite as extreme as the Texas abortion ban, but it might actually hold up better in court. Now, in oral arguments held in December, a majority of justices in the High Court appealed poised to uphold the Mississippi law, which, again, is a bit disastrous. See, 15 weeks, look, that's about 2 months earlier than Roe v. Wade and current decisions allow. That gives, unfortunately, families less time than they have now to make their decision, to gather their resources, money, what have you, book their appointments, get in all the government mandated visits to these providers that, you know, in some states are a roadblock. All right, so now that's less time, but it's not even about the timing, really, because most abortions actually tend to be done prior to that. You had 93% of abortions being done prior to 14 weeks and 75% done before 10 weeks. No, the real issue here is that this is considered a challenge, the first real challenge that they could use to expand to apply to Roe v. Wade. So, look, we have a conservative supermajority going on here, and you have several of these conservative Supreme Court justices saying that, you know, we might actually have to look into doing something about Roe v. Wade. In fact, Justice Samuel Alito Jr. had said in this case, the only real options we have are either to reaffirm Roe or to overrule it. Now, I am very concerned. Once again, you have 6-3 conservative Supreme Court. You have Clarence Thomas, you have Neil Gorsuch, you have Amy Coney Barrett, Brett Kavanaugh. I mean, that's a problem. That's a big problem, okay? This is why people are very concerned about what's going on. And why, I don't know, it might be important to reaffirm women's reproductive rights just in case. And I understand if, like, one of your criticism is, hey, look, we should have done this a while ago. I agree we should have done this a while ago. Yes, we should have done this a long, long time ago. How hard is it to reaffirm reproductive rights? But apparently, I don't know, the Democrats just, I couldn't figure out how to do it. That said, they should have done this, and they should have done this sooner, and they didn't. They didn't get to it. And now, well, reproductive rights are in real danger. And, well, apparently Joe Manchin doesn't give a damn about that. Not at all interested in affirming reproductive rights. So much for being a good Democrat, right?